Timmy God.
Welcome in. It's our Tuesday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio as we come to you live each and every day here on KDSJ 479 Monday through Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. And we got a really good show today. We're going to be talking with Kevin McPherson of AR Hoops. We'll talk to him in the 115 segment of the show. We'll talk fastest 40, break down as to what he thinks is going on with this very young Arkansas basketball team, and then more fastest 40 talk at 1:30. Our good buddy, as we like to talk to each and every week, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, Scotty Bordelon. He'll be joining us to talk even more of this upcoming Tennessee versus Arkansas big ball game tonight in Knoxville, Tennessee, in Bowling Coliseum for the Arkansas Razorbacks. And at 1:45, we're going to catch up with PurpleDogs.com, Derek Oxford. We're going to talk about the Fayetteville Bulldogs as they're going to take on their big arch rival tonight of the Bentonville Tigers. Big matchup for both the boys and girls ball clubs. Big time matchup, big time rivalry. We're going to talk to Derek and see how those two programs have fared in the early going of their 7A West conference slate. But we caught up with Coach Mike Neighbors. We had planned on playing you a little Coach Neighbors from his big win this Sunday in Budwell Arena versus the Vanderbilt Commodores. But due to a lot of time and a really good conversation we were having, weren't able to get to that. But here's his tidbits and just how he felt about this past Sunday's win as they, start 2-2 in the SEC.
What's your thoughts on picking up the win today in conference to move to 2-2?
Hope that Jordan Cambridge's injury is not something that's going to keep her out. Same thing with IT. We'll find out more tomorrow. But neither one of those kids came back to the game, so that's the first thing you always think about with these kids when that happens. But as far as the win goes, to be 2-2 after 4 games, very happy going into our bye week.
Feel like the start was exactly what you wanted?
Couldn't have been better much. We could have maybe got a better stop or two here and there, but we fouled early, and I thought that set the tone. We did foul early, and it just carried over and over and over. We set a new league record, I think, of 28 fouls and let them shoot 35 free throws. Or 32 free throws, sorry. Something that, we can't do that, not in and not out. So the start was awesome. It did lead to a lot of energy, and I think propelled us to make a few more threes than we might normally have.
Talk about Baker. I mean, that's what you want out of her coming off the bench, right?
It is, yeah, and then that feeds her defense, and that feeds her passing, and it feeds everything. So she's a kid that has always been streaky, She knows that, and she's in a good place. She's been a really happy kid since about Christmas. She's settled into this role. She's been great in the locker room. That usually happens for seniors. They start to see the end of the tunnel coming, and she's been awesome. And I think as a result, it's carried over to playing good. And her teammates got some confidence in her, and that helps.
I think Vanderbilt just played A&M and Georgia to 7 points each.
Yeah.
What were you able to do against them that those teams did?
Well, we tried to double team Maria on the catch and frustrate her early. I think she turned it over 5 out of the first 6 times she touched it and didn't make a shot in the first half. Is that right? I'm not sure if that's exactly right, but one. Okay.
1 point.
It felt like we really crowded her, and I think that was I know it's everybody's game plan against us is to pound it inside. So until they made a certain number of threes, we were going to make sure that didn't happen. And Jalen Mason is so good at that, y'all. And I've said it 100 times, we undervalue her, but she is so good at setting in that kid's lap and being able to anticipate and study the film. She's so good at that, and I thought that really frustrated and stymied them. And then they went away and made an adjustment. I mean, Stephanie won a WNBA championship. She knows how to coach, and went away from it, started driving it on us. So, and then that got Maria, I can't say her name. Got her going.
Welcome back to our Tuesday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. We brought you a little audio from head women's basketball coach Mike Neighbors following their big win versus the Vanderbilt Commodores this past Sunday in Bud Walton Arena. The ladies will take an 8-day break off as they won't have another contest come up till this coming Monday versus the Tennessee Vols. So a lot of time for this women's program to, rest, get back into their studies and the routine of going to school each and every day, and hopefully continue on. It's a good taste in their mouth being able to win their last ball game out. So we'll hope for the best as Coach Neighbors in that program at 10-5 or 13-5, I should say, 2-2 in the SEC, and very, very trending for that program. But we caught up real quick, and like I said, we played audio from Mike Neighbors, and we're going to take a real quick break. We also have audio from head basketball coach of the Tennessee Volunteers, Rick Barnes. We're going to give you his thoughts on his post-game look back at Florida, and also to look ahead to this Arkansas ball game tonight versus his third-ranked Tennessee Volunteers. And then after that, AR Hoops, Kevin McPherson, he'll be up, and time to talk fastest forward, and let's get off into this big SEC matchup. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. Back in a bit.
And the fact that he really hasn't shot the ball particularly well from behind the arc, it's the he's letting the game come to him. I think he's really working hard defensively, even though he got bumped around a little bit Saturday where he gave up a few buckets. But I think he's on edge, and I think he and Jordan Bone and Lamonte, I think those guys like to run, and he's really getting out in transition better than he's ever done. And but he's really the last 3 games he's proven you can score a lot of points by not shooting the ball well, just letting the offense work, and I think he's done a good job of doing that, not really trying to force too much, but just letting it happen.
And also, are you okay with your players doing the Gator chomp towards the Florida fans?
First of all, I'm going to tell you, we're not perfect. I'm not perfect. Our guys aren't perfect, but that's the very first thing. When someone told me that happened, that's the first thing I addressed after the game. I don't like it simply because I want total focus on the main thing, and I think when those things happen, it's going to be talked about. It's going to. I'm not on social media, but Tom and Mary Carter and them obviously keep me aware of it, But I also understand that I'm not out there an hour before the game with the student body, and I'm sure there's some things that are being said, but we also tell our guys we need them to control their emotion throughout the game, and I think they did that, and sometimes when the game's over like that, you let it out, and it happens, but do I like that? When I was a kid, I probably would have, but I'm not a kid anymore, and as a coach and older now, I just want to play the game. And I want our guys to learn from it. But again, I understand emotion. I understand competition. But like I said, they were out there for a good hour before the game, and they hear a lot, and that's part of what makes college basketball what it is. And it's just some people, you can call it friendly competition, but it is competition, and emotions can run high at times.
When you first moved Jordan Bowden to a bench role, you had kind of said after that game that maybe he hadn't faced kind of the adversity some of the other players had just in terms of your coaching and stuff. How did he initially react to the assignment, and how has he kind of adjusted since?
Well, in reality, I didn't move him there. He moved himself there, in reality. And you know what, and I said it before, Jordan's one of those guys that he is going to try to do everything he can to do the right thing all the time. But sometimes you can also, it's like being a good kid in class. You never do anything wrong, but you can do more. And that's what we thought as a coaching staff, that we had to get him to understand there's so much more that he can do, and not just do enough to get by and think he's keeping everybody happy. And where I would say that him doing that, and again, even though he's coming off the bench, he and Lamonte, I'm telling you, those guys are starters. They really are. And
welcome back. It's our Tuesday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. Bringing you live from KDSJ 479, Monday through Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. And now we're going to bring on our good buddy of AR Hoops and Hogville.net, Kevin McPherson. Kevin, welcome back to the Hill, my man.
Hey, Pat, how's it going?
It's going real good. Let's talk a little Arkansas basketball. Kevin, You know, this ball club's coming off 2 back-to-back close 6-point losses at home. First to the Florida Gators, second overtime to LSU. You know, what are you expecting in tonight's ball game when this team heads to Knoxville to take on a very tough third-ranked Tennessee Vols?
Well, Pat, I tell you, Arkansas's 5 losses are combined 19 points, and you look at both of those games against Florida and LSU, Arkansas got down by 15 points against the Gators and actually 16 against the Gators. And then it was 13 against LSU, and they fought and clawed their way back and had chances to win both of those games. Actually took a lead their first lead of the game against LSU in overtime, early in overtime. But I got to tell you, I think they're going to fall behind big early against Tennessee, and I think it may stay that way. I think Arkansas maybe finally run up against a blowout loss on the road. Now, you know, I'm not going to take away the possibility that they gut out another way to get back in a game and maybe make a run at it, but Tennessee's just too good. This is maybe the best team in the country. They're unbeaten at home. They haven't lost since November, and that was in overtime against Kansas, who was at the time ranked second in the country. I just don't think I think Tennessee's got too many answers, and Arkansas, quite frankly, is searching for answers right now. So I don't think it's a cocktail for a bad road loss, Pat.
When you look at this matchup, you know, it's quite obvious Arkansas has struggled at the shooting guard and point guard. Jalen and Isaiah's kind of, you know, not had the production in the early part of SEC play. You know, if you're Coach Anderson and staff, do you look at maybe bringing in a Keyshawn and a Desi and kind of starting to let maybe Isaiah and Jalen sit and watch the game for a little bit to get themselves back to the way they were playing in the early part of the year?
You know, I don't know. I think both of those guys there's a reason they're starters, and I think that that they haven't done anything to lose those starting spots. Then we maybe see some different rotations and maybe more other guys getting more minutes and maybe reducing guys' minutes. But, you know, Jalen Harris is what he is. I mean, the big knock on him is he just can't knock down that perimeter shot. I don't know if sitting him's going to get more value there because he is so good at taking care of the basketball and getting the ball to others where they can score. And he does some good things defensively. He can get downhill offensively as well and drive, and Arkansas lacks that. They really, outside of Mason Jones, they don't have an attack type of guard. Now Desi Sills will get downhill as well, so you're right. There may be some opportunities here for Sills to steal some minutes, but I don't know that you start at, you know, throwing another guard in the starting lineup. But, hey, we've seen Mike Anderson do things like that in the past, and so it wouldn't shock me if he did shake up the lineup tonight.
When I look at this team, Kevin, I think of maybe the addition by subtraction. And what I mean by that is, you know, I think maybe Jalen and probably Isaiah and a couple of those starters, Adriel, those guys might have a few more minutes more on their legs than what you might have, you know, you hope for. You know, you think maybe getting more minutes for a Desi, Keyshawn, Gabe, and Reggie. You think that'll help this team? Because to me it just seems like in the latter part of the games, you know, those 5 guys that you want to lean on, they just seem to be a little dead-legged. And I think, you know, with a little added rest and more from that bench as far as minutes, this might help this basketball team. Maybe not tonight, but going forward, is that something that you've come across with thoughts as well?
Yeah, I actually have thought about that. You know, it's a double-edged sword because here's what happens. If you look at Arkansas, every time they've gone to that second unit, it seems like they miss several beats offensively. They go through some real scoring problems because, you know, really those guys have not been able to produce consistently offensively. And really, I think that yes, you want to get more rest for your guys that are starters and not see them climbing those 30 to 35 minutes every game. But at the same time, you lose so much, and Arkansas has actually kind of been stagnant with the second unit. Now, there's people off the second unit that have helped playing with starters, but I think as a unit itself, it's been hard to keep them on the floor very long together simply because they've not been able to put points on the board. I've never seen a Mike Anderson team go through so many, the bench play, go through so many scoring droughts and not be able to produce until this season. I think a lot of that's just the youth factor.
Absolutely. I'm of the belief, you know, this is Coach A and the staff. This is the first time, you know, Kevin, when you break it down over an 8-year period that they've had, you know, at least 6 true high school freshmen come into their campus. Most of the time, you always had those 2, 3 JUCOs, but this is Coach A's youngest team. You know, how can this fan base help this team? I mean, there's a lot of expectations, but still yet the youth. I know, you know, as a fan base, the head coach is going to get a lot of the criticism, but, you know, what are some things that can be done to help this very youthful team get over some of these humps in Bud Walton, as they've had 4 really close, close calls, but yet came up on the short end?
I don't know what the fans can do other than just to continue to support and come out. I mean, I think kids know, you know, players notice when the fan support is there, and the fans can't play for them, they can't coach them, and really their role is to come out and support them. If you know, and that's up to the fans to decide if the product on the floor is worthy of it. But I think it is. I think when you look at the fact that it's such a young team, the youngest in college basketball, is really, I mean, there are no moral victories, but at the same time, it's halfway through the season, and they've played some good teams. Nobody's put this team away yet, and that says a lot about their resiliency and some of the things that Mike Anderson's doing to compensate for the fact that there's just a lack of experience in so many different scenarios that you face in a game. And I think that it's going to be a work in progress in a tough SEC. I mean, this could end up being a team that has a losing record in conference play. But we've seen this in the SEC as well with other teams that are now they have veterans. You look at Tennessee. There's a team when Rick Barnes came in that he had to remake, and some of the guys that are on his roster he inherited. But it took time, and, you know, now that's a junior and senior team, and it's their turn. Arkansas hasn't had the level of success that Tennessee's having now. But with the players that Mike has brought in, I think the last 2 classes, even though you're going to lose Daniel Gafford after this season, there's still players there that portend well for the future and having success again in the SEC.
Kevin, when you look at this team, is there an issue you think maybe that they still hadn't found an identity? You know, are we a 3-point shooting team? Are we a dribble drive type of team? Do you think that may, with it being so youthful, do you think that aged to a little bit of the inconsistency on the offensive end, 3 games into conference play?
Yeah, right. They're predictable, and that's why when they started out 6-1, I think teams finally got enough of a body of work to figure out how you beat Arkansas, and you do everything you can to take Gafford out of the game plan. LSU did not do a good job of that. They chose to go one-on-one, man-on-man with him, and we saw how that went. But at the same time, teams are daring Jalen Harris to shoot. They're laying off of him because they know if he drives, he can finish or pass. So they lay off of him and dare him to take the shot. And if he chooses not to shoot because he's not making them, then he's got to really kind of force an awkward drive because the defense is waiting on him. And then they're extending and really trying to cover up Isaiah Joe, because so far Joe's shown he does not have the upper body strength to take guys off the dribble and get in his mid-range game. So he's still looking for that 3. So and then at the 4 spot, that's where Arkansas is really hurting, is they're leaving Gabe and Adriel and even Chaney when he comes in. They're leaving that guy wide open, saying, "Please take the shot." Right. So if you have confidence at that spot, it changes things. And I think it's just the fact that Arkansas, it seems like they're always missing something, 1 or 2 things to keep them from getting over that hump, and that's what it's been this year.
When you look at recruiting, I know you always give us the 4-1-1. How's the recruiting front going? With Arkansas, Jordan leaves. I know they're out looking for 19s, but how has recruiting been going up to this point for Coach Anderson and staff?
Well, because of there's still question marks about scholarships. Now we don't have a question about Phillips. He's gone, so there's one. Justice Hill's already in the fold, so presumably he's up there. Presumably that's his scholarship now. You've got Gafford expected to leave. We know they're putting out offers to big men all in that 2019 class, including Raymond Hawkins out of the Oakland area that plays at Finley Prep, where Reggie Chaney played. He got an offer last week. So I think Javon Franklin, the 6'7" combo forward out of Little Rock Parkview that's been at Holmes Community College, sitting out this year with an injury. So he'll have 3 to play. We know Arkansas's high on him and then offered him. He's a guy that's looking to take an official visit. So you start, and maybe he's a guy at 6'7" that really kind of comes in and does some of the things that they were wanting from Jordan Phillips. But Franklin being a better athlete who's added perimeter skill. So that's at least, I think they're going to get 2 more players. And then you've got Khalil Garland's scholarship situation where he may go on medical hardship. There may be up to 4 guys they go after. They might save one for that deep 2020 class as well. But I think when you count Justice Hill, look for maybe 2 more guys in the spring at minimum from the staff.
What can Arkansas do tonight? Last question, and I want to, I know you're a busy man, but Kevin, what must Arkansas do, in tonight's ball game to just keep it close and possibly have a chance in that last 5-6 minutes to maybe steal one on the road in Knoxville?
Man, a lot of things got to happen, and I don't think enough of them can against such a sound veteran team. Well, it's true because you can.
Right.
Anything's possible. We see top teams fall all the time to lesser opponents. One thing that's got to happen is Tennessee's got to have an off night. I think if Tennessee's clicking on cylinders, they're at top of the SEC in so many categories on both on defense and offense. They've just got to have an off night. Arkansas's obviously got to finally start making free throws. They're going to have to compete on the glass. And then someone other than a Gafford or a Mason Jones, there can't be a solo scorer like we've seen. Now, both Gafford and Jones scored well against LSU, but LSU had more bullets, right? They outscored Arkansas. But I think Mason Jones and Isaiah Joe are both going to have a good shooting night on the same night for Arkansas to have a chance. So there's a lot of things there. There's a lot of stars that got to align, Pat.
Well, Kevin, as always, love having you on. You have a blessed day, and we'll talk later in the week as Arkansas travels for yet another tough game in Oxford, Mississippi versus Ole Miss. But as always, thanks for taking time out on the Hill, my brother.
Good to be with you, Pat, always.
That was Kevin McPherson of AR Hoops, also of Hogville.net, giving us the 4-1 of what he thinks is taking place in the fastest 40 with the Razorbacks. A lot going on, but there's also more talk as Arkansas is heading to Knoxville, and we're going to catch up and let you hear more of Rick Barnes, head coach of the Tennessee Vols. Here's what Coach has to say as the Hogs head to Knoxville.
So you as a coach, I'm telling you, never feel good until you know it's over. And but I don't know if I have a rule of thumb what we're going to do other than each game it would be more of a field type thing where I think we are and where the game is.
Rick, just how is Zach progressing through his injury and all that stuff?
He's working his way back in something. He's not back into full practice yet, and he needs to do that as quickly as he can. But he hasn't practiced obviously for a long time. But he's starting to do some things, but starting to get back into the 5-on-5.
Rick, I think other than maybe y'all being at the top of the league, there seems to be, I know it's early, but there seems to be some surprises in the SEC. Some teams that have won their first few games, some teams that have struggled. Have you been able to see much of the league at all to this point, and what are your thoughts on it?
Well, my thoughts were what I started the year with. I thought last year was a great year for us, and I said I thought this year would be better, and I'm not surprised at any of it. I go back, I've got so much respect for the coaches in this league, and then, you never know what goes on with every team because you don't know the injuries within, you don't know this, that, or whatever. But I don't know if I would say I'm surprised about anything because of the fact that our staff has so much respect for the league. And you look around and really I'm not surprised. I just think we're weak in it, and I think it's going to be an exciting year for SEC basketball, but I really haven't studied it in depth at any of it. But again, where I see scores, I'm not surprised.
Rick, just how much of a luxury is it that down the stretch and in tight games that you've got 5 guys that you can put on the court that have the experience in those moments?
Well, it is. I mean, that's what coaches always talk about, getting older and having that type of experience. And where you see it more probably than actually on the court is during timeouts, where they come to the bench and they're locked in. I mean, they know they are truly locked in. Like I'll give you an example. The other against Florida, we ran the isolation play for Grant where he scored it, and we came back and we were talking. Okay, this time down the floor, and he just simply said it with authority. Let me have the ball there, and I'll make the right play. That's where I think the experience shows up. And the fact that, to be honest with you, in that game as a coaching staff, we're sitting there thinking, we know what Admiral's meant to our team, but prior to Admiral going back into that game, John Fulkerson was playing great. I mean, he was doing some big-time things for us out there, and when you could tell he was so locked in. And then, but we know, okay, Admiral's been out there. We knew we had to get another score on the floor, but it goes back to where we're thinking about that. Do we really leave Admiral on the bench and keep Fulkes out there because he's playing so well? But obviously we did the right thing there because of Grant saying, let me have the ball there and I will make the right play. And he did. And that, I think, is when the experience really starts showing up. It's whether this guy can make a shot, that guy can make a shot. They were all on the same page in terms of knowing this is what we need to do.
Coach, just you guys were in the same boat last week, but Arkansas played at Saturday. They have to travel on Tuesday. Just, how tough is that, the way the SEC has that schedule set up?
It is. It's a tough turnaround. It is, to do that. But I mean, we all coaches have their routines, and right now, I was really concerned a little bit about the Florida game because our routine from our Christmas break had changed, but with school starting back, and now our guys go from probably their Christmas break routine to now they're back in school, and you can tell they're a little bit out of sync a little bit. And we actually, when we got to the hotel the other night, because the plane was late picking us up here, we were concerned whether or not, I think we got there at 9:30, and Garrett and Chad do a lot with the guys in the rooms with their bodies the night before game, and we thought, well, maybe we shouldn't even do our night before meeting, and but the guys said, no, let's do it. And so again, we trust them to do that, and I think this time of year you've got to have the routine that we have. Sometimes it has to be changed, and sometimes I like to change it just see if we can handle the change. But you come back and playing Saturday, and you have to get. You obviously, some teams might take a day off. We didn't do anything on the court yesterday, but we did our routine. We came in, watched film, and worked out in the weight room with Garrett and worked on their bodies. Today will be a practice. It can't be a long one, and then we'll play Tuesday. But ideally, would you like to play on Wednesday? That'd be a good question to ask the players. I don't know if they'd rather have a midweek game off, a day off in the middle of the week, or Sunday. But Wednesday will be our day off. But it is a quick turnaround. But it also, that's why you go back to those early season tournament games where you really have to do it on no prep. You just walk through in a ballroom somewhere and do those type things. So every coach, every program have their methods of doing it, and but traveling can be tough. Obviously, we saw it happen with Missouri getting to South Carolina. That's when it all gets where you get concerned about the weather, those type things too.
Rick, I know that coaches never really like comparing players to previous players or teams to previous teams, but I guess with the culture of this team, with being so many upperclassmen on this team, guys who kind of understand each other, the chemistry with this bunch, the way they push each other, how unique is the situation that you've kind of built here with these guys, this nucleus of guys here?
Well, first of all, I think they've built it, because I think that they've bought into what is trying to get done, I think.
Welcome back. It's our Tuesday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio, brought to you each and every day here on KDSJ 479. Audio from Coach Rick Barnes, head basketball coach at the Tennessee Volunteers. Arkansas travels to Knoxville tonight for the 6 p.m. tip-off on Super Tuesday. ESPN 2, for those that are wanting to watch the ball game, you can catch it on the Deuce, ESPN. But we're making attempts to reach Scotty Borderland of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. We'll be joined by Scotty here temporarily to talk even more about this upcoming ball game with the Tennessee Vols, Arkansas Razorbacks. But it came across a few minutes ago, LaMichael Petway would have been a fifth-year senior, has decided to be a grad transfer and not play at the university his senior year here in Fayetteville. Demetrius, what say you on this new development within the Razorback football program?
Again, I just think it's another sign of it being a new regime. I think it just really shows that Chad Morris really is moving on, and anybody that doesn't 100% buy into what it is that he's trying to do, he's opening the door for them to leave. And it really doesn't matter what the potential ceiling is for that player. He wants you bought into what it is that he's trying to do. So
we knew that this was going to be a part of it. And when a new coach comes in, you know that there's going to be some turnover. You don't know what players, what positions, but you know there's going to be some turnover because at the end of the day, everybody's not going to buy in to that system. When you been so accustomed to, you came to play a pro style. Chad brings RPO, up tempo, air it out attack, and I just think some of these guys, it was not going to work out. Michael Petway will be a successful young man in whatever he chooses to do. Unfortunately, Arkansas, as far as his athletic career, was not the place. But that's life. That's a life lesson. We'll wish him the best. But I agree with you, Demetrius. This is only right. I think every coach has a right to do it the way he sees fit. And, also the players. If it doesn't fit you, it's just like a pair of shoes. If it doesn't fit, you're going to get a pair of shoes that's going to be comfortable, that you are okay with. I think that's the same way with picking a college or picking an athletic program to be a student athlete at. So, we wish Michael the best. Another one down. They're getting closer to the numbers of wanting to sign 29 young men, as the scholarships, Demetrius, are slowly but surely coming available to achieve that goal of signing 29 individuals. And also, too, want to make an announcement. Ben Hicks, former SMU quarterback for Chad Morris, Joe Craddock, and that offensive staff, had decided to grad transfer and be an Arkansas Razorback. With that being said, Demetrius, to get a guy like Ben Hicks, someone that's ran your offense, was a 3-year starter, how does this benefit Coach Morris and the offensive staff heading into this 2019 season?
Well, with the new addition of Ty Storey saying that he's entered his name in the portal, I think it really gives you that player coach, that guy that can really help the younger guys on the field. With Kelly Bryant choosing to go to Missouri, Ty Storey deciding to leave, you got Cole Kelly deciding to transfer. You really don't have anybody in the room that can explain the offense to the players. And I think that's why he brings the older guy in. He's going to show guys the preparation, the mindset, and kind of those intangible things that sometimes a coach can't get across to a player. And it has to be a player to teach you certain things and nuances to get ready for a game.
Also, too, want to be duly noted that Coach Chad Morris and Dave Van Horn met yesterday in regards to how things are going to play out with getting Connor Noland. But the bird has landed. We caught up with our main guy, Arkansas Democrat Gazette, Scotty Borderland. Scotty, welcome to OTH, my man.
How are you guys doing?
Doing real good. Not to the degree of Coach Anderson. I think we might be doing a little bit better than this 2018-19 version of Fastest 40, as they dropped 2 at home, 2 really close games, 2 winnable games. Scotty, what is the outlook, in your opinion? I mean, this is probably the toughest game that they played to this point in the season. What are the outlooks that you're going to be looking for once tip-off happens at 6 p.m.?
I want to see if they can kind of get back to playing more aggressively. Mike has always talked about this year. Even before the season, he called Dan his centerpiece, and I think everything was going to kind of work around him. And I think they need to get back to playing kind of how they did against LSU, as far as like feeding him the ball. I think he got 19 shots the other day against LSU. That's probably a career high, but I think it needs to be consistently 10, 12, 14, sometimes 15 shots. If he's rolling like he was against LSU the other day, then 19, 20 shots might not be a bad deal either. But I think you got to get some more consistency as far as your guards being more assertive. I wrote yesterday that Mason, I think it's pretty fair to say that he's been their most consistently aggressive guard, getting to the rim. And I just did Arkansas shot chart from the LSU game the other day. He was 4 out of 5 in the lane. I think one of those shots that he got was several of those shots he got in the lane were really easy, and one of them I think was off a steal. So he's been pretty aggressive defensively too, and you need to see that kind of just kind of flow through the rest of the guards. I wrote Jalen. He's taken more 3 than 2-point shots since the Texas A&M game, which is not his game at all. And we got to see Isaiah Joe get back into a rhythm. That when he's not making shots, that really hurts.
When you look at this basketball team, Scotty, at the guard spot, to me, from our vantage point, it seems that, Isaiah and Jalen, maybe as the game wanes on, they seem to be dead-legged. Coach Anderson mentioned in yesterday's availability with us here in the media, the intent to get guys like Desi and Keyshawn and Gabe and Reggie more minutes. Do you think the situation where it might be addition by subtraction when you take the minutes from those two, and maybe even Adriel Bailey, you think that's going to be something that this team can really benefit on? Because Reggie Chaney, Scotty, is starting to really figure things out. I mean, how big is that also for this program?
Yeah, it was big to see Reggie kind of bounce back from his game against Florida. He only played 5 minutes, and I mean, that was so kind of head scratching that I asked Mike after the game. I was like, "Is he okay? Like, why wasn't he playing?" And he comes into the game and he travels 8 seconds after he checks in, which that's kind of hard to do. But I think he was just. Mike said he was frustrated a little bit and he was trying to go get it. And we've heard Mike talk a lot this year and in previous years that when guys let the game come to them instead of trying to go get it, that's when things just kind of start clicking. And Reggie played probably his best game on Saturday. I think he had 6 points in the first 2 minutes that he played. He was ultra aggressive, and I think probably his best play of the year, aside from maybe the 3-pointer that he blocked at Colorado State, which was freakish. He started a defensive possession by cutting off a baseline drive, tipped the ball away, followed it all the way out to half court, tipped the ball away again to himself, and then got a dunk. That just kind of shows you the potential that he's got. And he scored 12 points. He was pretty solid on the glass. And, I really like him and Daniel playing side by side. Right. I think those two guys are really, really solid together, especially on the defensive end. And, if Reggie can find a mid-range game, that's just going to open things up for Dan and make Reggie even more dangerous. I really like him. You get a big boost from him off the bench. That's always a plus.
5 losses by an average score, Scotty, of about 3.8 points, 19 points. But the big stat that jumps out is through those 5 losses, 42 missed free throws at a clip of 59%. You erase those free throws and you hit half of those, you're a 15-0 ball club. The margin of error for this young basketball team, with it being 10-5 and they have struggled, 4 home losses, that has to be, concerning for Coach Anderson to see his team be so close but still struggle so greatly at that free throw line, don't you think?
Yeah, it has to be. And, I went back and rewatched the LSU game for my shot chart, and I was putting one of the dots down, and Isaiah Joe was at the free throw line while I was trying to find the right spot to put it. And Isaiah is normally he's a guy that you feel like you can count on to bury a couple of free throws, as solid and pure of a shooter as he is. And he clanks the front end of 2 free throws, and you just see Mike's head just kind of drop. When Isaiah is missing free throws on a semi-consistent basis, which is a little bit odd. It's not going the right way. And, it's just about repetition. And, the guys have to be consistently working on that in practice, and I think they know it's a big deal because they see how missed free throw here, missed free throw there, or a shot or a big shot that they miss, and like a momentum shot, they miss that. I think they see how that can really swing a game, and I think they're very aware of it. It's tough. It's tough sometimes to just step up and knock a couple free throws down when I think it's kind of like a mental thing throughout the whole team. I think it's kind of spreading right now.
Talking with Scotty Bordelon of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette here live on the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. Scotty, I want to talk to you about a very concerning issue for me. When you look at the team, experience-wise, it's got to be really concerning for Coach Anderson and staff. This is also to come down to maturity at that guard spot. What can Arkansas do? Do you think they need to shake it up, maybe start Desi, Keyshawn, or is it also, too, with it being so young, is this just a team that still hadn't developed an identity for the 2018-2019 season?
Yeah, that's a good point. I was talking to somebody earlier this week, and I think that one thing you can do to kind of change things is maybe another shakeup in the lineup. And I don't know if you go four guards and you put Desi, Jalen, Isaiah, and Mason around Dan. That would probably hurt you in rebounding wise. But I think that could also, Arkansas has not been playing at the pace it wants for the last month or so. I think that's fair to say. And I think if you put those four guards with some speed on the floor with a big that can run, I think that could probably turn the tempo in the manner that you want it to be. Or maybe you just kind of shake it up and you still want to play two bigs to kind of defend the rebounding aspect, and you put Desi in place of Isaiah Joe. Maybe just a change of scenery could help. He's kind of been struggling since the Texas A&M game. I think he's 2 of 10 from three, and Desi's been playing pretty solid, 5 assists without a turnover the other day against LSU, and he had a really good December. It kind of showed a lot of growth. So I don't know exactly what they're going to do, obviously, but maybe you just take a little bit of the pressure off of Isaiah and let him just give him another role and see if he could star in that for a game or two, and try Desi out in the starting role. Who knows? I think we'll probably see a lineup change here in the near future, if I had to guess.
Well, Scotty, as always, love having your insight on Coach Anderson and that fastest 40 and your take on what you think is going to happen tonight versus the Tennessee Volunteers. But as always, my man, you have a blessed one, and thanks for taking time out on the Hill.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks again for having me.
All right. That was Scotty Borderland of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette giving us his take on the fastest 40 versus the Tennessee Volunteers, ranked third in the country. The best team, in my opinion, in the SEC, coming in at 3-0, 15-1, and just playing with a lot of momentum. I believe they're coming off a 9 or 10 game winning streak. So, all sickness ain't death, but sometimes situations seem like the sickness is going to be death. This is a very young basketball team there at Arkansas, and they're heading in to take on the SEC's best. A recipe for maybe something that Arkansas fans knew one day would come this year with them being so young, and that would possibly be a lopsided loss. I anticipate more of a comfortable, competitive game, but we'll see. Tip-off 6 p.m., ESPN2. Before we get out of here, we're going to close out with audio. We caught up with Malika Monk and senior guard Raven Northcross. They gave their insight as to why they are sitting at 13-5 and 2-2 in the SEC as they talk about their big victory this past Sunday versus the Vanderbilt Commodores.
You feel like you're able to give them a nice lift off the bench?
Yes, sir. That's my job, is to bring energy every time, so I did my part.
What about as a team? How did you guys feel? Do you feel like was the good start, something you guys wanted to concentrate on and talk about a little bit?
Something that we emphasized a lot. So we did what we had to do, move the ball around, we played good as a team, brought a lot of energy as a team from the start, from tip. So.
I guess for both of you, but Raven, was the three-point shooting contagious? It seemed like you all pretty confident with that.
Yes, sir. That's our game, is threes. We know we got a lot of shooters, so we move around. We're going to get wide open shots. If I don't have a wide open shot, I know one of my teammates will. So that's what we emphasize.
And also, coming out of the shooting drought at Missouri, we knew that we need to come back in and do what we do best, which was knock down open shots. And everybody coming in here doing their part throughout practice, getting in the gym, shooting extra shots, preparing for this game. It really helped us out in the long run.
Anything else for the players? Thank you. Thank you.
Back to our Tuesday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio as we close it out with audio from senior shooting guard Raven Northcross Baker and senior point guard Malika Monk as they recap their big win versus Vanderbilt Commodores this past Sunday in Bud Walton Arena. And we want to give a big shout out as that's going to wrap it up for us here on the Hill on today's Tuesday edition. I want to give a thank you to Kevin McPherson of AR Hoops, also of Hogville.net, for coming on and talking Razorback basketball with us, as well as Scotty Borderland of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. He, too, talked fastest 40 and Tennessee Vols as they tip off tonight, 6 p.m., ESPN2, in another SEC important road game for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Also, too, want to give a big shout-out to our sponsors, Lindsay & Associates, with an office location in Fayetteville,